Welcome to the party, pal. I'm Commander Tom, and this is obviously Pleasant Valley's Farmhouse Barn, or what I'm going to call it for this series, the Long Dark Laboratories. In this episode, I want to show you the tools that you already have at your disposal to aid your way of finding natural navigation and distance calculations here in the Long Dark. If science and tips like that are something that sounds good to you, leave a like and subscribe so you can stay up with future tips. Let's get into the science of it. First, let's go ahead and go to a reference point that I'm sure everyone will have, the archery target. Now, many people have asked for a compass so that when fog or blizzards come into the situation, they can determine north. But I understand the storyline of the Long Dark involves a geomagnetic storm, so I'm willing to accept the developer's reasoning for not putting in a functioning compass that most people are aware of. However, if you open up your menu and drop just a simple stick and look down at the ground, that stick will always point north. Additionally, say if for some reason you don't have a stick, you have a knife. This knife, when dropped, will always point east to grant you that assistance. Don't believe me? Let's try a couple of tests. Now, I dropped it facing that target. I'll turn completely away from the target. Drop the knife. Drop the stick. North. Face the barn. North. Facing north. North. This is just one simple trick to give you a compass needle to help you out in certain navigation situations. Most commonly, I use this in three situations. When I have low visibility due to blizzard, low visibility due to fog, or the occasional good old-fashioned I am lost. Whatever the situation comes for you, this is something that I want to try and be of assistance for you with. So now that we've talked about direction, let's talk about actually using that ability to determine direction. Let's talk about some of the maps that are available offline. Now, before we even get into this, I know some of you in the back are going to be saying, maps are cheating! Alright, and for those of you who believe that, I would like to respectfully disagree. Let's consider the actual character we're talking about here, Will Mackenzie. He's a bush pilot for Jack Rabbit, and in all likelihood, it sounds as if he even inherited this business from his father. And Jack Rabbit is a local bush pilot. He has flown this territory of Great Bear Island previously. He should know it roughly from air. And if he's inherited a business that's been flying for years, it sounds like, it's more than likely he has a stack of maps. And it's very likely that those maps are occasionally out of date. So I think the concept of having the maps is completely legitimate within gameplay. If you are a map user, I encourage you. But I want to make sure you're actually reading the map properly, especially since I just taught you how to find north. You see, you want to pay attention to the legend and to the compass on the map. Now, certain maps, such as Coastal Highway. Absolutely, north is the top of the page. Absolutely correct. However, on other maps, such as Mystery Lake, again, pay attention to the compass needle. In Mystery Lake, north is to the left. If we continue on, take a look at Pleasant Valley. North is to the lower left corner. All right, so these variables change per map. Absolutely. Take a look at the maps, use these things. But for instance, even with Timberwolf Mountain, north is due left. Okay, you're going to want to adjust. You're going to want to, when you're at a map, when you're wanting to use a map in game, and you're wanting to use a map out of game, make sure that you're actually coordinating what direction north is on that paper map so that you're actually using the directions in game properly. Now that we've discussed direction, I want to talk a little bit about tracking distance. Now, this is something that I think most people have had difficulties for a while. And then I finally figured out the key. You see, one thing that we do have is footprints. If you look, you can tell you leave them as you walk behind. Well, that's great, but what's the distance between each footprint? And then it occurred to me, we have a standardized measurement that we can use as a reference point. You see, the rifle in the long dark is a standardized weapon. In fact, it is actually modeled after the Lee Enfield bolt-action rifle that the Canadian Rangers actually use. That's one of the reasons why it was selected for the game. And this rifle has a standardized length of about 2 feet 8 inches. And we can drop it, and we can compare it to the distance between footprints. Now, if we do this, and I did a more comparative actual photo, Photoshop, pixel measurements and such. And what the bottom line of the math comes down to is that between each footprint is about 5 feet of distance. And this is actually pretty standardized almost universally, even going back to Roman soldier marching days. Part of the reason why we have a mile is that it's a little over 5,000 feet, and a mile is from a million, Roman thousand, all right? So we can measure distance by counting our steps, counting our footprints, and counting off 5 feet that way. This can come in handy again for blizzard navigation, fog navigation, or for measuring out other things. What other things could we be talking about? Well, if you tune in next week, I will teach you how to set up our Pleasant Valley Laboratory into actual target practice. If that's something that interests you, click the link in the corner, and I'll see you next time.